Brilliant. Yeah, well, look, it's the first Launch Collective podcast of the year. For anyone who doesn't know myself, by the way, I'm Ewan Robertson. I'm one of Strive's business development managers across EMEA and the US. Also, an avid speaker on the Launch Collective and done a number of these. So I'm really excited to be back. Yeah, first one of the year. We've got a lot of big stuff planned this year, so it should be fantastic. But yeah, on to today's podcast. So it's all around creating a culture within recruitment. And for those of you who haven't joined us before, there's a couple of housekeeping rules that we like to maintain throughout. So yeah, wherever you can, please stay on mute. However, if you do have a question that you'd like to bring up to Anna, feel free to kind of jump in halfway through if you really want to kind of speak and have an open conversation. That's fine. Yeah, we like to try and keep this as kind of intrusive as possible. So cameras on where possible at all times. And then, yeah, if you don't want to speak up and ask a question, feel free to drop them into the chat. And then at the end of the presentation, we will have a Q&A session where I can read out any questions that you do have. But yeah, feel free to kind of take your mic off mute and ask. If not, we'll bring it up at the end in our Q&A. So yeah, and yeah, first of all, before we get into the main content, I want to introduce today's sponsors. So, joining us today, we have Pinpoint. So, is the slide moving? Yeah, so anyone who doesn't know Pinpoint, so Pinpoint are, I'm going to hand over to Beth, she'll explain a lot better. So hand over to Beth, she's Pinpoint's Senior Director for Partnerships. She's been doing this for the past 2.5 years now. She's been connecting with communities, consultants, and other tech providers within the TA space to help talent teams hire smarter and faster. So yeah, Beth, I'll hand over to you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ewan. So yeah, I'm Beth. I look after everything partnerships here at Pinpoint. So I just wanted to take a moment to introduce myself so you can get to know a little bit more about Pinpoint and put a face to the brand, really. Um, if you haven't guessed from the slide, Pinpoint is an applicant tracking system. We help teams scale smarter and faster with technology. We spend a lot of time working with companies to achieve exactly what today's forum is all about. So, helping hiring managers to always have recruitment in mind, partner closely with TA, and build sustainable pipelines that mean you don't have to start from scratch every time a role opens. We were really keen to sponsor this particular session today because culture, relationship building, and mindset are just so important. And the right systems should make it easier to achieve these, not harder. One example of a company that we've seen do this incredibly well is our customer River Island, where they've transformed how recruitment operates across their business by enabling hiring managers to spot, engage, and nurture talent with one system. And that's across their hundreds of locations globally as well. So, what we'll do is we'll share that case study on River Island and how they've engaged hiring managers globally, and also a guide to building talent pools in the key takeaways from today's session. Hopefully, they're going to be helpful to you as you start to think about how to apply today's discussion in your own organizations. I'm also in the community, so if you ever have any questions about Pinpoint or anything from today's session, you can reach out there. But with that, I'll pass back to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And then, as always, Strive are the founder of the Launch Collective. We're very proud to say that. It's a fantastic group. I'm sure you'd all agree, where we give a lot of opportunity to internal TAs all the way across EMEA and the US, all within the kind of SaaS background. And if you aren't aware of who Strive are, we are essentially a go-to-market talent partner that work with early, mid, and late-stage vendors backed by venture capitals, like you can see on the list here, by the likes of Sequoia, Insight, A16Z, and Accel Ventures. And essentially, we don't just place one people here and there. We look to build entire go-to-market teams and have done for companies throughout cybersecurity, throughout DevOps, throughout data, and throughout AI as well. But yeah, they're the two sponsors for today's event. What I'd love to do now is introduce today's guest speaker, and I'm very, very thrilled to announce that it's Anna Taylor. Yes, Anna, how are you doing? You okay?
Hi, yeah, doing well here. And hi, everyone. So I'm Anna Taylor. I'm the Director of Global TA at Sempris. I've been here for about 4 years now, and hopefully we're going to have some good discussion today. I definitely want this to be, a chat and not just me talking at people. So I welcome, any discussion, comments, questions from everyone who's here with us.
Yeah, fantastic. And look, but before we kind of get into the content, Anna's done a
Yeah.
fantastic kind of presentation today for us. We've had a look through it. It's fantastic. We're really looking forward to bringing that to you. Before we get into that, Anna, we like to kind of do a little bit of an icebreaker before we get into the content. So we have a couple of questions, quick fire questions, just so everyone can get to know you a little bit better. So yeah, I'll start off with a couple. Anna, would you say you're a morning person, or would you say you're a night owl?
Oh, this is a great question. I am definitely a morning person. Especially I live in Arizona, so our time zone is quite difficult working in a global role. So I definitely am a morning person, and I have many early morning meetings.
Good. I think that's slightly different to what I would say. And then in terms of yourself, Anna, are you a podcast person, or are you a book person?
Did you say a podcast person or?
Yes, or do you prefer podcasts, or do you prefer reading books?
Oh, I do prefer reading books. I know that a lot of people also do kind of like the audio books and things like that. I never got into it. Maybe I'm very old school, but I really do like reading books. And while I have a Kindle, I also love like a good feel of, like a
That's
paperback book and like really flipping the page.
yeah, very good, very
Yeah.
good. What would you say, Anna, is the best piece of advice you've ever been given throughout your career?
Oh, I love this question. So, my first job out of college, actually, I worked for a very small company. I've always worked for startups. So it was a very small, actually, husband and wife team that owned this company. And they were in Germany for 6 months out of the year. So it was very hard for me to get, what I needed from them. I had some questions and I was questioning myself and kind of feeling a little hesitant about what I was going to do. So I was waiting desperately for them to wake up the next morning, in German time and give me the advice of what I needed to do. And the advice that came to me was, I trust you'll make the right decision. So I don't know that that's exactly like a piece of advice that I've gotten, but I really think that that just statement that
Yeah,
Audrey was her name, she's amazing, an amazing leader. When I woke up in the morning hoping that I was going to get this whole, rant from her on what I'm supposed to be doing, and instead that was what I had in my email inbox, I was like, oh wow, she trusts me. I should trust myself. And I think that was one of the best pieces, like that really kind of set the course for my whole career.
yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that having that inner trust from someone that you trust as well, it is fantastic. It can really kind of
Yeah.
backs up that you do know what you're doing. And I think that is a very good piece of advice. Um, if you weren't in the talent world, what do you think, or what job would you like to have instead?
I would teach swimming lessons all day, every day.
Nice. Any
Yeah.
particular stroke in mind, or is it just
No, so when growing up, I was a breaststroker and I was a lifeguard and I taught swimming lessons. That was always my summer job. And then I even did it, in summers for college and things like that. And it's just so much fun. I mean, like, why wouldn't you just play in the pool all day with kids? That's basically what the job is. And you're helping them overcome their fears and stuff. So if money didn't matter, that is what Anna Taylor would be doing every day.
very good, very good? And then what one interview question, we'll link it back to talent then. What one interview question do you secretly really like asking someone when you're interviewing them?
I always ask, what are you looking for? So I think it's very important and sometimes a missed step, even from hiring managers, recruiters, otherwise, that we're not always asking enough about what the candidate wants because
Mm.
it's really important that it's a mutual fit. We're not just evaluating them, they're also evaluating us, but we should also be evaluating what they're looking for and if we can give it to them. So I think it's a really important step in the interviews that people sometimes miss.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. It's a very good question. And
Yeah.
then what is one tool that you use on a day-to-day basis that you simply just could not live without?
Um, I mean, I think LinkedIn is like always open, always on my phone, on my computer. It's just, I live there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, me too. Me too. Well, yeah, look, that's a couple of quick fire questions, and I really appreciate the kind of
sure.
honesty. And yeah, look, it's great to get to know you on a better detail. So yeah, I'll hand over to yourself now. So today's content is all around creating a culture of recruitment. Anna is an avid speaker on a lot of these podcasts. She does a lot of really insightful information, and she's done a wonderful job at Semperis. So I'm going to kind of hand it over to you, Anna, and we'll talk through the slides. And yeah, look, I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah. And again, I want to say as we're starting, this is a small group here today. So let's just jump in, right? Everyone ask whatever you want, either put it in the chat, raise your hand. We'll try and pay attention to that and have like a discussion today. That's really what I wanted this to be. I love brainstorming together with other TA leaders, and that's what I hope we accomplish from today. So I am going to share with you today how we've scaled from about 150 to over 600. And it's really, really true that it was by making hiring everyone's responsibility and everyone's job. So we're not going to talk about funnels today. We're not going to talk about, just tools or speed. We're really going to talk about ownership and, who owns hiring and scaling. And we can go to the next, get us started. So why does a culture of recruitment matter, right? So we can't do it ourselves. When a company scales successfully, it's not because the TA team worked harder, hired more recruiters, brought in agencies. It's because the business as a whole decided that hiring matters and is one of our most important initiatives. So the uncomfortable truth is that we can't do it ourselves, right? We can build the best TA teams around, but we can't do it alone. We're in the people business. We can optimize all we want. And if the hiring managers that we're partnering with are not growing with us or partnering with us, the growth is going to break. You're going to find a slowdown. You're going to hit a wall. The fastest growing companies, they don't treat recruiting as just an HR function. They're treating it as part of their leadership responsibility. And that's, again, what we're going to talk about today. And while I don't know that every company is going to ever be able to really always achieve this, I'm going to talk today about, how we achieved it and what I do to continue to nurture it. So what is it, right? Well, what is it? What isn't it? Basically, let's be really clear. Culture is not created by, HR planning a happy hour, being invited to, a trip, getting swag in the mail like I pictured here, right? This was the first year that I worked here at Tempest. This was our one of our winter gifts that we got, along with a bottle of whiskey, which was awesome, and we get that every year. But it's really about leaders sourcing, pipelining, networking, being experts in their space and field, and taking part in the talent attraction that the recruiting team is having to do. So recruiting is part of everybody's job. It's not just swag and building culture from what HR initiates. So I think that's really important to define at a lot of companies.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about, our Semperis growth story. So I've been at Semperis since January of 2022. At the time, there was a HR team of 3. It was one, recruiter that they had, 2 HR people. And then they brought me in, and I was brought in because of, the expectation of a lot of growth. I didn't think that we were going to grow this much. I don't know that any of us thought we were going to grow this much, but we're now an HR team of, I think it's 27 across the world. And, the company is now over 600 plus, and it's been amazing. And that all happened in 4 years. Our growth is very strategic. We've done it with a lean TA team. Right now, my team is 5. When I first started, it was 3. So, I've kind of picked a few up along the way, but it's a pretty lean team. No recruiters, no sourcers, no coordinators, just recruiters that are full cycle and really leaning into that white glove service that we give our hiring managers and our, candidates. We have a very high referral rate as well because of this culture that we've built. So our referral rate is actually over 30%. So over 30% of our hires can come from referrals. Our sourcing, I can share that with you also. Our sourced hires are at about 25%. And then the remainder is a combination of, sometimes we do use external agencies, of course, inbound and, events and things like that. But basically over 50% of our hires have come from referral or sourcing directly with our internal team. And I think that's a pretty good statistic. We've had a very focused tech stack. We use about 3 tools that we really, really dig in on, and that's LinkedIn Recruiter, BrightHire, and Ashby. So we need a strong ATS, we need a recorder, right? And that's really helpful for us. And then we have, of course, LinkedIn Recruiter as the sourcing tool. right now, and we are exploring some AI tools, but I like to keep the tech stack really focused. I find the more noise, the more slow. So that's kind of my philosophy.
Okay.
Global scale without lowering the bar, right? Quality of hire is measured here. We are really, really high on quality of hire, right? I measure it at the 30, 60, 90-day mark of new employees that join us. I get feedback from the hiring managers often and early, and it's really important to us to understand. So we're 4 times the company size, 23 countries and growing. If we tried to do this all ourselves, us 5 recruiters, right, we probably would have failed. It could have broken us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just have a quick question, Anna, if you don't
Go
mind.
for it.
You've obviously mentioned there you're in kind of 23 different countries throughout the world. You want to create a culture within the company. Do you think the cultures change depending on which country you're situated in, or do you try and create a generic culture throughout the entire world? How do you kind of operate with that?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. So I really think it matters what your definition of culture is, right, as a company too. But for us, it's not so much that it's like a generic culture country to country, because we absolutely respect everybody's unique culture and approach and things that you need to do for different countries and how it comes off for different countries. Our philosophy and our value is to be a force for good. And I find that if we just continue to focus on just hiring genuinely good people
Yeah.
who others enjoy working with, it doesn't matter what country you live in or who you're working with or what team you're on, right? Just a genuine, good-hearted, kind person that wants to be here and is passionate about what we're doing. That's what we look for.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's fascinating because I know that there's a lot of various
It's pretty simple.
cultures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really think that people make it too complicated, right? Like it's really simple. Just be a good person. Just be honest, be authentic, and just be a good person. And then you fit at Semprus. Someone asked a question. They said, what metrics do we use to measure quality of hire? That's a great question. So I'll kind of answer all of those together. So the quality of hire, it definitely lands on both the hiring manager and on the recruiter. So we explore the quality of hire by measuring, it's a quick survey that they get at 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days. It's about 3 questions each time. The first survey is focused a little bit more on, the recruiting period, obviously, because within 30 days, you probably didn't hear much, or be able to observe much of what that employee really is going to produce. But the first 30 days is, how did the recruiting process go? Did you enjoy working with the recruiter that you were working with? And, is the expectation thus far what you expected from this candidate, right? From this new hire. At the 60-day mark, then you're going to ask, have they accomplished what you expected them to accomplish? Would you hire this person again? And, what feedback do you have that you may have learned in this first 60 days? And then we actually repeat the same 3 questions again at the 90-day mark. And then it all gets compiled into like a scoring. So, that there's a rating scale along with those questions. And so you can go from 1 through 5 on what that quality of hire should be. And so we always want to land at a 4 or a 5 as often as we can. And if we don't, then I partner with the HRBPs to really take a look at, what went wrong during the recruiting process. Did we miss something about this candidate? Or was it the onboarding process? So, if the 30-day report was glowing and then suddenly the 60 and 90-day isn't, was it the onboarding? Did they not get enough training? And I think that accountability is very black and white in so many places. It's gray here. It's everyone's fault, right? Like it's everyone's responsibility. Hopefully that
Yep.
answers the question. Yeah. So TA as an enabler, right? So something that I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to really give you an actionable, item that I did. Like I'm going to tell you exactly what I did that is very direct and created this culture of recruitment. So basically, our TA team from the beginning, I was very clear. I did a road show basically in 2020, early 2022, before we did our big push for hiring. I did kind of a roadshow. I got to know all the leaders, and then I put together a presentation where I invited everybody to join. And I said, listen, we have a lot of hiring to do. This is how it's going to look. And I set the tone. We architected, the process. We told everybody what it's going to look like. I introduced them all to the recruiting team that we had, at the time that was going to help us to kind of get through this process. And we discussed, we stopped positioning ourselves as order takers. We explained to the leadership and to the hiring teams how this was going to look and how we were going to achieve the goals. and we put some things on them, and we of course told them, what we were going to take. So you have to always position talent acquisition as, like I say here, an architect and also a coach. They're
Mhm.
not recruiters. We need to tell them what a strong recruiting system looks like and what it can look like and what we need from them. We can't expect them to know what we need.
Mhm.
So leadership, they owned the pipeline with us. We build the system, we create the standards, we're going to coach them, but the hiring success has to be shared, right? So the quote that I put on the slide here, I love this quote: TA should be a multiplier, not the bottleneck. I was very clear from the beginning, from 2022, and I repeat it and I remind everybody every single year. Talent acquisition is here to help the business. We're here to support the growth of the business, and we need to work together on it. We will be the bottleneck. If you put everything on TA, if it's our responsibility to make the decisions, to create all of the feedback, to do all of these things, and to chase you all the time when we need something, we're going to end up being the bottleneck.
Yeah. I suppose just to kind of jump in again, what you
Yeah.
obviously set this up at the beginning, you did a fantastic sort of roadmap. You went and met all the leaders. Did you have any, what would you say at the initial start was your biggest kind of pain point or pushback? Do you think you had a common one, or was there various different ones when you kind of laid it all out?
It's interesting because in go-to-market, and some of the other leaders on the call might have experienced this in other startups, but they were relying heavily on agency.
Mhm.
They were never used to really having like an internal TA partner. And so they didn't understand that they could still use agencies, every once in a while when it was necessary and it made sense, but that now you have a TA partner that's going to help you do this. You don't have to go directly always to that external agency and figure things out. So it was a little bit of a learning curve for some of those teams to sort of loosen the reins and, let someone else guide the process. So that's what I say in the partnership, right? The leader and the hiring manager, they should never be owning the process or guiding the systems or, telling you how to use your ATS and do what we do best, right? We're the recruiters here. We
Mhm.
should be guiding the process, and then they need to feel confident enough in our abilities to then give us what we need from them to be successful. So it's a really kind of a delicate balance. And yeah, I definitely came up against some hiring managers who were a little bit hesitant at first. You also occasionally can meet those technical leaders that are kind of like, well, that's a recruiter, not an engineer. Like they don't know what I do, you know?
Yeah.
And it's only because they've never been, for lack of a better way to say it, handheld through the process of
Yeah.
if it's really good, what good could look like.
So they just kind of weren't used to the support that they could possibly get and kind of found it a little
They
bit.
never, yeah, they didn't know they didn't know, right? Like you don't know what you don't know. And the unknown is scary. And it takes a little time. It takes a little massaging of the relationship, but it's in a really, really good condition right now.
Very good.
So executive buy-in. I think that's really important. We just talked about it. I obviously had to talk to all the leaders, get everybody on board, especially in certain years like 2022 and 2024. They're massive growth years for us, right? And this year will be as well. And just remind all the leaders of the process. But one thing that I have on my side, which I don't think all companies have it, and I do feel really, really lucky for it, is I have an amazing leadership team that is actually very involved in the culture and believes in, how important like that culture is. And so this is just kind of a screenshot of a post, for example, that Mickey Bresman, our CEO, made one time on LinkedIn, where he's talking about, being a force for good and excellence awards. So we actually don't have a president's club, right? I'm not doing this presentation here telling people like not to have a president's club. You guys obviously have that president's club going on right now. But at many tech companies, president's club rewards only the salespeople, and it's pretty much that's it. And all the other departments, you're sort of left to fend for yourselves with some kind of spiff or bonus or whatever. At Sempris, Mickey feels really passionate about having excellence awards. And it actually allows for, of course, our top sellers will be honored and get to go to the Excellence Awards trip, but it also allows for all the other departments to nominate, a certain number of people from their teams that contributed to the growth of the company that year. So, having leadership visibly involved, he posted that openly on LinkedIn. I didn't ask him to. We don't have an employer branding manager that told him to, right? Like that helps me.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things help me. So the more that you can get your executives to talk openly about the culture, to talk openly about their vision, mission, and beliefs, you're multiplying the efforts of talent attraction
Yeah.
without even saying a word, right? That took no effort.
Yeah.
So
Was
I
that?
just wanted to kind of get that across today.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Has that always been the case, Anna, at Temperis, or was that something
Yes.
that you kind of brought in and was like, I would really encourage, rewarding the whole team and not just the sales team?
That's always been the case.
Yeah.
No, that this has always been the case. We've never had a president's club. It's never been something that we've created or had. We have sales kickoff, we have company events, we have whatever, but we've never had something Mickey and leadership truly recognize that, yes, sales is the driver, right? A lot of our bonuses or things like that are based on, the company's sales success.
Hmm.
But there, if you have nothing to sell, sales won't be very successful, right? So engineering and product is super important too. And then if you didn't have customer success, those customers wouldn't exist anymore because they'd probably drop you like a fly. And so it's all an ecosystem. And I think that again, culture of recruitment and just culture of togetherness that you feel from the top down is really important.
Yeah. No, fantastic.
So now let's go back into like the real kind of meat and potatoes of like how we created this, right, as a recruiting team. So in addition to having executive buy-in just on how important the culture is, the recruiting piece of things is amazing here at Sempris because all the way up to the leadership side of things, they believe that recruiting is really essential. And so we should always be recruiting. We had to build, though, their leadership's recruiting muscles. Everybody knows how to have a conversation with a friend or a network or someone at a conference, and you tell them, this is a great place to work, and you kind of have those chats. But we actually took extra time to really teach and become teachers and strategists and true business partners and teach the hiring managers how to spot the talent and then target them, right? Because that's what we do when we're doing our sourcing or we're doing our outreaching. They're going to conferences, they're out there at events, they're on blogs, right? We had to teach them how to really spot the talent, identify an ideal candidate profile, and then always be recruiting. Always bring up to them like, I will be having a spot on my team later. I've really enjoyed our conversation. Let's keep in touch. Teach them basically how to pipeline and network.
Hmm.
So the results that we've had are, like I said, really amazing. Our referral rate has been very high. It's been over 30% for multiple years now. And our quality of hire has also been really high. So, that's just kind of what I wanted to present here was just we are winning candidates. We're having stronger referrals, and we do have a really strong employer brand. Often when I get on a screening call with someone, they've said, oh, I met so and so at this event. They mentioned they love working at Sempris. Here I am today applying for a job, right? So it's very important to us to maintain that employer brand all across the board. It's not just the responsibility of recruiting.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about is how to start, right? You want to start right away. So I immediately had a really amazing executive sponsor in our CRO who really feels like Always Be Recruiting is up there in importance with Always Be Selling, Always Be Closing, right? And I suggest you pilot one team. Find one team that maybe has the highest volume of recruiting or seems to have, the highest engagement and already be like open to this. And I started by piloting this with the sales team. So I used the sales leaders. I met with all the AVPs, all the sales AVPs, and we organized basically a training session where I actually went through with them what sourcing, building a pipeline, and then hiring looks like. And they were awesome. I mean, keep in mind, like the sales organization is a really great pilot as well because they have Sales Navigator. They're out there at conferences all the time. They're visiting customers, they're networking. They already have the foundation of really excellent networking skills, right? Because they're a salesperson. So it was a great team to really start this with. And so now they're building pipelines on their own if they want to. And then when they have a resignation, rather than just coming to my TA team and saying like, wow, this person resigned, now I have to, backfill and let's start the search or whatever. They're coming to me and they're being like, this person resigned. These are the 3 people I have in my network that I'd like you to already speak to. So it's amazing. I mean, is that going to happen every single time? No, but there have been quite a few searches now where even with a new, a net new role or something, they're coming to me and being like, this is my vision for my team this year. I have this open head count. Can you start with these 5 people? And maybe one of those 5 people doesn't end up being the hire, but it gave us a
Mhm.
start. It already got the ball rolling and it's making us much faster. And then the other thing that we're doing is celebrating the recruiting behavior. So when we are having those successes, I'm calling them out. Like I'm telling the CRO or whatever, like, look, he's doing awesome. Like he's so concerned about his team. His team is doing great. And then he is always recruiting. He's bringing me pipeline. He's bringing me people. We're constantly having conversations for that territory. So that is how I would start right away, right? You're not going to scale by just like getting more recruiters on the seat and just trying to be faster and using all your AI tools and whatever. You have to scale by making everyone who's involved care about it.
Yeah.
Right? That's really, really important. They have to be thinking about it all the time, just like you are, just like we are.
Mhm.
So that's really it. I mean, like I wanted to, we saw the success. You don't scale by just hiring faster. You're going to scale by making everyone care who joins next. And I wanted to say thank you for being here. And again, I know we had like kind of a small group, but if there's one takeaway from today, let it be this, right? TA really doesn't need more control. I think everybody always argues about how like TA needs a seat at the table. We should be in a C-suite position. We should be CHROs, whatever. That's not the right conversation to be having. I think the conversation to be having is what is our influence? And it's not going to come from just like a seat at the table or a title. What influence are you having and are you empowering and engaging your hiring leaders? Because if you're building a team that doesn't suck, right? Like if you're building a really amazing team, you should always be recruiting and everyone should be. So hopefully
Yeah.
I gave you a little fun stuff today to go back and take with your teams.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And I think before we kind of wrap it up, I have another couple of questions, if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
go for
I
it.
think obviously, you've built a fantastic culture over at Semperis. You've obviously been the main focal point for that. What would you say has been, or a couple of your biggest wins, you would say, off the back of creating such a big culture?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I forgot to mention it. So actually, one of our biggest wins most recently was a country manager position. So
Like,
we had a country manager position that we knew was going to come open for the next fiscal year. So everybody was kind of ready for it. But my TA team was already so, working on the current openings and things like that that we hadn't pipelined yet. Well,
mhm.
that local leader pipelined, and we ended up hiring a person that he found from using, LinkedIn Recruiter and InMails the way that we had taught it. It was only about a month after I had done that training for them. He had a whole I mean, he was like really on it. He had a whole pipeline of people. We interviewed plenty of people, right? We got some candidates from agencies, we got some candidates from others, but we ended up having one of the hires ended up being a sourced hire that he actually went out and himself sourced, met them for coffee, was like, I'd love to work with you. You're super interesting, right? They kind of met for coffee, hit it off, and a country manager hire came out of that.
No, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
That fresh in his
it was
memories,
awesome.
a lot on board, which is
Yeah.
brilliant. Tyler's asked a question here, so I'll just quickly read it out. It's kind of around creating a lean stack. So, can you elaborate on what you've seen be successful and what you've also seen be a blocker in terms of slowing the process down and kind of adding extra steps?
Yeah, great question. So I really do keep a lean stack because I think that we already have like a really great system in place. And while I understand that adding like let's say a juice box or a find or a seek out or something like that is kind of like the trend right now, we've piloted some of those tools and we haven't seen that it has sped up the process too much because our process is still very white glove and not as high volume as some other companies. So we have to always take that with a grain of salt that it's not apples to apples. The way that we do things here at Sempris and our volume and things like that we manage might be really different than what other companies are doing. And so for other companies, having those extra, AI sourcing tools and, getting rid of some of that part of the manual top of funnel work is really important is really important for them. But for us at Sempris, being that we're still, like I said, having that kind of white glove approach to the candidates, really networking and trying to find our outbound that way, those haven't always been so great because you're going to go to Juicebox, you're going to go to whatever, but still in mail response rate. I'm not a fan of LinkedIn by any means from like their pricing and like just the corporation that they are, right? But you have to give it to them that like the in-mail response rate going to LinkedIn from those tools. You're going to find the pipeline, but then you have to always go back to LinkedIn anyway for all your messaging and getting the responses and stuff. So my team has found that it actually just slowed us down to have, our pipelines outside of LinkedIn and not integrated with everything that we do. The other aspect of it that's like a lean tech stack is I think when you're evaluating an ATS, right, like a Pinpoint or like any other kind of ATS, is that you try to see, can you be in that ATS all day? Or are you jumping back and forth? Are you going from LinkedIn to your ATS to this person to this Excel spreadsheet to whatever, right? And when I shopped for tech, I really wanted to look for what's going to help our day to day. I don't know if that helps. Hopefully that answered your questions. If you have like something more specific, happy to kind of elaborate on it too.
Yeah.
No, I think it's good because sometimes let's say you have like a CRM on top of like the ATS, you're putting in kind of similar information. There may be some redundancies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think like having that data is important, like to drive decisions, but also, there's a high level of workload and there's kind of the actual outbounding that you're doing, pushing referrals, like kind of driving the process. So it was just more of like a very high level kind of
Yeah.
curiosity question for me.
Yeah, I think it's exactly that, right? Like, so I'm a big believer in having a lean tech stack also because I think that the more times that your recruiters are having to pivot during the day for admin tasks, you're slowing them down. You're taking them away from what they
Mhm.
should be doing, right? So if they need to upload a person to this portal and then that one integrates with this one and then all of a sudden they've got to go over to this one to do the messaging, but wait, their campaign is over in this tool, you've just wasted like minutes of their day that they could have accomplished in a different way. So I think we as a team have not yet found the perfect sweet spot of implementing, additional tools. We seem to keep coming back to this very lean, clean tech stack where everybody knows where to find everything. The hiring managers can easily find everything, and we're not kind of confusing them either. And it makes the partnership run a lot smoother too. Because the more you add and you ask the hiring managers to learn new tools, they've got enough tools themselves, right? Like the hiring teams, the engineering teams, whatever, think about how many logins they have and whether it's on SSO or not, the number of tools that they have. If we can streamline it as well and make their lives even easier, it makes our lives easier.
Fantastic. And then yeah, just I have
Yeah,
another question, and I just in
sure.
regards to the kind of processes that you run. You've obviously implemented a lot. You've got a lot of people involved within Semperis, within kind of hiring, within the culture of hiring. Is there anything you would say you've added in particular that has really added the most value to bringing in new people, to really helping attracting talent? What do you think is something you've implemented that's really added the most value to your process?
Yeah, I mean, again, I can't speak to other companies, but something that I'm really proud of here and of our team is, the video interview. So it's required. Like every recruiter, whether we use kind of like some questions in the beginning and you do a quick phone call or something, every single candidate has to go through a video interview screening. You are face to face, you're talking, you're getting to know that person. So I think that that was the first thing I implemented when I first joined in 2022. A lot of the time, like I said, they were using agencies or they were doing otherwise, and people were kind of rushing the process. There's no need to rush, right? If you just have a really good kind of steps in place, we shouldn't rush through. You need to sit and talk to a person face to face and really, get to know them before you're confident in moving them to the hiring manager. And like I said, before we did that, they were kind of rushing the process sometimes, and people were getting through the steps. And then all of a sudden at the end, they were like, oh, wait, this is totally the wrong salary, or this is the wrong this, and they were skipping what a recruiter really brings to the table.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fantastic. And I suppose just final question and then kind of wrap it up. Obviously, you've got an incredibly large and very well run talent team over at Semperis. If you were speaking to somebody who necessarily is maybe a one, two, three-person band at like an earlier stage company, what do you think in terms of creating culture are things that you think you must have regardless of like the size of the company and where people are at in terms of growth?
Yeah, I mean, I think no matter the size of your TA company or not, but especially in the startup space where sometimes there's TA teams of one, And before I came to Sempris, that was my background. Was I
Yeah.
was HR, I was payroll, I was recruiting, I was, everything. That's why you'll never see, a recruiter title on my background until here at Sempris. But even when you're a team of one, most important is building that trust. They should understand what you're doing and have visibility into how recruiting actually works. And then you have a mutual respect for each other, right? Like, and this is what I'm going to do to make you successful. This is what I need from you so that we can both be successful. And then we move forward together. But if you're constantly battling with your hiring managers or you're constantly feeling like a paper pusher or an order taker, you need to pause
Mhm.
and like realign on the company's goals because they hired a recruiter, right, for a reason. They hired a talent acquisition person for a reason, and they should trust you to do what you know how to do.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. I think it speaks to a large number of our audience as well. And then, yeah, Tyler's just fired another question. In terms, you
Yeah, and
mentioned,
I can like go into it. Like
yeah, of
I
course
think
you can, Tyler. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I think one thing that's like really interesting is the 50% referrals and
Yeah,
being maybe like a growth company, like there's less people at the company to like kind of source for referrals. So that's, I mean, that's
right.
really impressive. And I think you connected that to like creating a culture of recruitment, getting everyone involved. Like I kind of just want to dive deeper into that, like just,
Mhm.
how you accomplish that, like maybe some specific actions or just maybe some overall advice how to drive that.
Yeah, so it's really a great idea that to get to know your candidates and employees really, really well. And then as a TA leader, you align the recruiter with teams. And that's been working really well for us. So for example, there's one recruiter on my team who's been with us for 4 years now. Probably every, support engineer, software engineer, and whatever for certain teams, she's hired them. So she has now developed that trust with those people that after she hires someone, she can then ping them after and be like, listen, I wish we could clone you. I wish I could have found 5 of you. Like, do you have any friends? Right. And so her sourcing, like part of her sourcing process and all of us, our sourcing processes is to be with the business every day. And that's what I mean by that, right? It's reaching out on teams, just shooting over a ping saying like, hey, I'm growing your team again. Would love to find more of you. Do you have any friends? And like asking for the referrals. Some companies just roll out like a referral bonus program and then think it's going to just operate on its own.
Yeah.
That's not how that works. Like you need to be talking about referrals and about what the open roles are all the time and like reminding people and keeping it top of mind. So I would say that's one quick actionable item that if anyone on your team feels like a close connection or friendliness or just kind of knows some of the teams they've already built and if those teams are continuing to grow, reach out to those candidates that you had built a relationship with during the interview process and now they're happy Sempris employees. Let's ask them like, hey, you're enjoying your time here, who else can you recommend to us, right? So it's the referral program needs action. Something else that's interesting about Sempris though is that the culture from the leadership down is going to drive your referrals naturally. It really will, because we actually didn't even have a referral bonus program until 2025. So
Wow.
you didn't get a bonus. You made a referral, but you didn't actually even get paid for that. Your bonus was getting to work with someone awesome, right? So that's it really is an intrinsic kind of culture that you have to create. So doing that, and then the other aspect of it does come down to LinkedIn, right? So sometimes we would have where the recruiter would actually write up what we wanted people to say and share. And we'll send it out on like our company Teams chat and just say, hey, working on this really hard role. If all of you could share this posting on your LinkedIn would be amazing. And then we would get referrals from that, right? People would post it on their LinkedIn and maybe people from their network would ping them and be like, hey, saw your post, saw you at Sempris. So it's really all about just not making the responsibility only ours and asking all the people in the company to kind of like pitch in. And you can only do that if you let them know what's going on and they're aware and then make it as easy for them as possible. Like I said, write the script for them. Tell them exactly what the post should say. Say, here's my suggestion. If you don't mind, please share this posting. Let your friends know that we're hiring and let's see if someone contacts you from it. Does that help? Hopefully that gives you like one or
Yeah,
two
it definitely does. I
examples.
think kind of the key is like not working in a silo and just, hey, let's make
Exactly.
everyone aware. Even if it's like, hey, just post this on LinkedIn and they'll, maybe it'll nudge them, be like, oh, I know
Mhm.
this one person and just
Yeah.
being proactive and kind of ease of use.
Exactly. And then the train, actually, one thing I forgot to mention when we were talking about the training of the leaders, um, I don't think that recruiters are comfortable enough maybe sometimes, but you should ask the hiring managers to send the messages too. So, people are much more likely to answer a hiring manager who's sending like a networking message on LinkedIn than just the 100th recruiter that day that sent them a message,
Mhm.
right? So while we're outsourcing and we're outbounding and we're doing outreach, and we're looking for people, we build our pipelines, share the pipeline with the hiring manager. And if they have an extra 5 minutes, right, again, give them the template and just be like, hey, like if you could send this to some of the people on this pipeline that you're interested in, that would be awesome. Like, let's try to get them to talk to us. It's a team sport. Hiring is 100% a
Mhm.
team effort.
Yeah, because I think there's sometimes in what we're seeing is maybe a breakdown, and hey, the employee's like, oh, I'll get in touch with them, and it kind of goes a little bit cold. So I'm maybe looking for some more angles, like I
Yeah,
think hiring manager, just, hey, listen, these are the people that got positive back channels. This is who gave them the back channels. Here's a message, like essentially ghostwrite it for them.
exactly.
That's what it
Yeah.
seems like I'm here. Okay, I
The
like that.
more work you can do up front to like set it up to be take only 30 seconds of their day, right? Like the more likely they're going to do it for you. So
Hmm.
one is the relationship building. They have to really, really trust you, right? And like you and want to help you. So that's really
Hmm.
important. And then the second part is making it as easy as you can for them. So, send them the message, like you said, ghostwrite the message, send them the text you want, give them the pipeline, even give them a list of like 5 people. Be like, I really want to talk to these 5 people. I'm struggling. I see that you're connected with them on LinkedIn. Can you help me get a warm intro? And then let's at least both try, and see what
Hmm.
happens. But you also then have to be responsible to like follow up and kind of check in with them. And if they don't hear back, they don't hear back, right? And then maybe it's a lost lead, but it's worth a shot.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I hope I
Brilliant.
helped.
Yeah. Well, I think unless anyone has any questions, I mean, Anna, you're always open to asking questions outside of
Yeah,
this anyway. So, but I just want to say a big thank you, Anna, for jumping on today. I've really been looking forward to this session. It's been a real pleasure to host it with you. But yeah, we're going to send out call recordings after this for everyone. And if
awesome.
anyone has any questions at all, feel free to reach out to Anna on LinkedIn or reach out to myself, and we'll be happy to answer kind of any questions that you have. But yeah, look, it's been a real pleasure, and thank you very much, Anna.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate everyone. And if anybody implements some of these things and has some success, I'd love to hear about it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate, connect with me. And if you try it, let me know if it works.
Brilliant. Thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Thanks, everyone.
No
Bye.
worries.